Shannon and Kumasawa drew close together, fearfully looking at the back door.
どちら様ですか?
As Goto fearfully approached the back door, he called out, and he checked with his eyes the location of a butcher's knife set on the nearby sink. He didn't pick it up yet, because there was still a possibility that this was a member of the family. However, that possibility wasn't possible. There was no response from across the door to Goda's initial question. Maybe his voice had been so quiet that it hadn't reached through all the wind and rain outside.
源氏さん。
南條先生と女たちは下がって。一体どなたなんですかな?
Genji took a knife with a classical design from a stationary box placed near the chest set. It was something to be used instead of a paper knife to open envelopes for invoices and bills. But it was fundamentally a knife, so the blade on it could injure someone. Genji hid it in his sleeve with a well-practiced manner. Then, he too approached the back door, and signaled to Goda with a silent nod. Goda cautiously approached the back door, and slowly started to open it. Huh? The figure of a person suddenly shuffled to the side, landed on its knees, and fell over. Goda fell backwards onto his backside in shock. That figure was soaked with rain, smeared with mud, and drenched with blood. What? Kanon!
カノン大丈夫か南條先生
It was Kanon. His breath was feeble, and the puzzles of mud he left quickly became drenched bright red. When Nanjo held him and turned him face up, there was a deep, gruesome scar right in the center of his chest, as though he had been run through with a spear or something. Even now, deep red blood poured out from there.
これはひどいですよ。どうしましょう。救急箱ですか？救急箱ですか？
カノンさん、傷口に手を当てて。
This cannot be possible. He died. There's no way this is possible. There's no way this... Like, he's still alive. Still clinging to his life. How?
しっかり押さえてください。使用人室のベッドに運びましょう。皆さん、手を貸してください。
さあ、カノンさん。しばらく我慢してください。
しっかりして。もう大丈夫よ。だから傷口から手を離さないで。
とにかく使用人室へ運ぼう。熊沢ローザ様にカノンが見つかったことの報告を。
待って。ローザ様にはダメ。
待ってください。カノンさんがローザ様にはダメだと言っています。
どういう意味なの、カノン君。
What the hell is going on here? Kanon died. Beatrice even said that in red, that he died in Jessica's room. Unless... he was resurrected? Is this it?
今はいい。早く使用人室へ運ぼう。熊沢、ローザ様にはまだお伝えするな。
And he wants us to not tell Rosa? Why?
カノンに事情を聞いてからにする。
はい。
After appearing in this horrible state, he had said not to tell Rosa. That could only mean something very disquieting. That could only mean something very disquieting. And Nier's sense of panic rose to their faces,
さあ皆さん、急いで運びましょう。早く早く。
Alright, let's go. Come on. Kanon's wound was unbelievably deep, and judging from Nanjo's pale face, it was almost a miracle that he was still conscious.
これはひどい。何か槍のようなもので刺されたようです。
With a spear.
肺まで届いてなければなんとか持つかも。とにかく止血を。
No matter how much Nanjo tried to wipe off that gushing deep red blood, he couldn't wipe it. He couldn't wipe it. He couldn't wipe it. He couldn't wipe it all away. And each time, the wound was aggravating, causing Kanon to cry in anguish. I do not understand. Like, what is going on here? Like, what is Beatrice trying to do here? Like, is this even the real Kanon? If he's the real Kanon and he's back to life, then would the second Twilight still be complete at this point?
カノン君、カノン君、カノン君、しっかりして、しっかりして。
南條先生、替えのタオルです。なんてむごい。
容体はどうですか。本音を言うと生きているのが信じられん深手だ。刺されどころが幸運だったのかもしれん。だが出血がひどすぎる。輸血が必要だが明日まで無理だ。
ローサ様が僕たちを。
喋らないで、カノン君。傷口が開いちゃう。
ローサ様がやってきて、お嬢様と僕は。
なんですって。
ローザ様がですか。おお、そんなことって、そんなことって。
No. This can't be it. Is he trying to say that Rosa killed them? Like, that she was the one that went after Jessica and Kanon? That isn't possible. I mean, yeah, I did have my theory before about Rosa and the key that belonged to Jessica, but it cannot be her. It is Beatrice without a shadow of a doubt.
間違いないのか。
はい、間違いなくローザ様でした。
No. This is a trick. This is a trick that Beatrice is using on us to lead us on the wrong track. To suspect Rosa of the murder. And this Kanon is not the real Kanon, but a fake one. That has to be it.
さあ、もう喋らないで。熊沢さん、もう一つの救急箱を取ってください。
源氏さん、ローザ様がなんてことはありえるのでしょうか。
わからん。
Disregarding Nanjo and Kumasawa, who were struggling hard and stained with blood as they tried to stop the bleeding, Genji and Gwada faced each other. Because if what Kano had said was the truth, Rosa was a culprit who killed Jessica.
おのれ、ローザめ。よくもお嬢様を殺してやる。
Kanon screamed even more hatefully. His hate-filled voice made it seem like he had seen Jessica being harmed right before his eyes.
確かにローザ様がお嬢様を殺す理由はあるかもしれない。後ろ宮家が全滅すれば遺産は全てローザ様のもの。だとしたら バトラ様やジョージ様も危険なのでは。ローザ様は銃を持っている上に、今客間には彼らしかいない。源氏さん、これはかなりまずいことでは。
Shannon suddenly ran out into the corridor. Huh? Shannon? Her expression was complex and tragic, as though she didn't know what to believe. Shannon ran. To where? The inside of the mansion had been scrupulously cleaned, so they probably wouldn't be easy to find. She might find some if she searched the rose garden, but they would probably have all been lost in this wind and rain. That's right. The boiler room isn't cleaned very often. If she went there, she might be able to find some. Shannon ran down the stairs to search for those in the underground boiler room. Had some medicine taken effect at the brink of death? Or had Kanon finally stopped even feeling pain? For the time being, Kanon had at least gotten over his painful gasping. Nanjo apparently didn't think of this as that great of a trance, and then let his eyes off Kanon for a second. Masao firmly gripped Kanon's hand, and kept encouraging him so that his will to stay alive didn't fall asleep. Genji and Gora seemed to be bewildered at how to deal with the truth that Kanon had risked his life to deliver.
ローザ様の銃は確か4発か5発の弾が込められたはずだ。
決して少ない数ではないですね。でもあの銃は弾の装填に結構な慣れが必要だったはず。一発目は撃たせてしまうかもしれませんが、みんなで襲いかかれば次を撃たせずに銃を奪い取れるかも。
この島には医者はいても薬はなく、病院もない。撃たれどころが悪ければ死ぬぞ。
それは分かっていますが、それより早く行動を起こさないとまた次の事件が起こる可能性も。私たちはローザ様にうまく追い出された気がします。今頃ジョージ様やバトロ様が殺されている可能性も。
そんな危険な相手なら無理に刺激しない方がいいんじゃありませんか。
しかし明日までは長い。どんな手を打ってくるか想像もつきませんよ。源氏さん、こちらから仕掛けるべきです。せめて10歳理由をこじつけて奪えばなんとかなるかも。
弾は4、5発じゃありませんか。ということは私たち全員を殺すには足りないということです。迂闊に刺激しなければきっとローザ様もむやみには。
あいつは言ったよ。僕たちを皆殺しにすると言った。
Kanon, who they thought had been sleeping quietly, suddenly started talking brightly. Almost like he had been awake the whole time and had suddenly opened his mouth. He looked firm and steady, and Nanjo was slightly relieved. But thinking of the deepness of that wound, he just couldn't wipe away a certain creepy feeling. He knew because he was a doctor. Kanon should have been expected to fall unconscious after losing so much blood. And yet, somehow, he had preserved his awareness so clearly. Youth? Or tenacity? No. This must be witchcraft. Who are you? For you to impersonate Kanon like this and tell us such a lie. It has to be a fake. Maybe someone is controlling Kanon's dead body. That has to be it. Sometimes the power of human life did surpass common knowledge. When they had stopped bleeding, to make sure there were no foreign objects inside the affected area, Nanjo had groped around a bit inside the bleeding hole with tweezers, and the great depth of the wound had surprised him. The wound had certainly reached as far as his lungs, and yet... No, on the other hand, the fact that he is alive is fortunate. But Kanon had spoken clearly. He had hatefully said that the one named Rosa had created this wound, and was repeating curses and enraged words.
くそ、なんて人だ。
You know what? Fine. Let this be your turn, Beatrice. Let's see what you're going to do with this. I am dead curious what will happen next.
源氏さん、どうしましょう。私たちにも何か武器がいるのでは。
にわかには信じられん。ローザ様がそのようなことを。
源氏様、信じる信じないじゃない。あいつが僕にそう言ったんですよ。この僕が聞いたんです。どうして信じてくれないんですか？
起きないで。傷に触ります。
Kanon sat up on the bed and spoke to Genji, who was making no effort to believe Kanon's story.
あいつは僕たちを必ず全員殺す。もうきっと客間の方々も殺されているに違いありません。僕らが先に殺さなければ必ず僕らが先に殺される。僕が先に殺されたようにみんなも先に殺される。殺さなきゃ殺される。殺さなきゃ殺される。殺さなきゃ殺される。
カノンさん、あんた本当に痛くないのか？
ああ、これですか。大した傷じゃありません。
大した傷じゃないどころか、あんたは
本当に大したことありません。こんなのもう全然痛くないし、本当に大した傷じゃない。
As Kanon said that, he began to untie his own bandages, which had been painstakingly wrapped, and the gruesome hole in his chest was immediately exposed.
カノンさん、そんなことをしてはダメですよ。早く横になって。
大丈夫ですって。ほらねえ、大した傷じゃないでしょ。
Kanon showed off his gaping wound, which was still slowly spitting out foamy blood. Everyone averted their eyes reflexively.
ほら、全然大した傷じゃないですって。
やめなさい。傷をいじってはいけません。
ほら見て、全然深い傷じゃないんですよ。ほらほら。
Kanon held up two fingers, showed them to everyone, and slowly started to stick them into the gruesome wound right in the center of his chest. What? Plunging, slimy, squishy, wet. The fingers went in deep to the base. Squish, loop, flop. Jesus. I think I... One moment, please. Like, Jesus. Seen a lot of dead corpses, but not once did I ever think I will ever see a person finger themselves in their organs.
カノンさん、やめて、や めて
Having stuck his fingers completely into his chest, up to their base, he slowly pulled them out in exactly the same way. The fingers he pulled out were stained a sticky, solid, deep red color, and there was even a thread hanging. And the fingers were all the way to their base, covered in deep red.
ね、全然大した傷じゃない。
Just then, the door opened vigorously, and Shannon appeared. Even after she saw Kano stained with fresh blood, her impregnable expression didn't falter.
やあ、姉さん。どこへ行っていたの？僕が既得だというのに、一体どこへ？
ボイラー室に行ってきたの。探し物があって、それより確かめたいの。あなたは本当にカノン君。
I bet all my money that this is definitely not Kanon. Either it's Beatrice or one of her helpers, or some water witch or whatever, but definitely not Kanon. It was only natural. Everyone believed he was Kanon, so they couldn't understand the meaning of Shannon's question. When they looked, they noticed that Shannon was holding a handkerchief in her hand. It was filthy, and it looked like she had wiped up some trash or dust. And while holding that, she approached Kanon and drew close to his legs.
なんだい、それは。
雲の巣を拭き取ったハンカチよ。
A handkerchief with a spider's web?
なんでそんなものを？
カノン君なら平気だろうけど、もしあなたにとって雲が天敵だったなら嫌うかなって思って。
Spiders? What?
やだな。僕がどうして雲を嫌うの？
ごめん、試すね。
シャノンさん。
When Shannon brought that handkerchief close to Kanon's thigh, something happened in an instant. It happened all at once. The human eye couldn't have followed it. Kanon jumped back like a wild goat, fleeing from the thing Shannon was holding. And his arm drew trails with some kind of afterglow that flashed purple. And there were 3 beautiful purple trails drawn in an arc, and they were traced across the throats of Nanjon Kumasawa, who had been tending to him. And Nanjon Kumasawa's throats had opened like gaping mouths, and it was that very instant before the blood was about to start spewing out. Nanjo Kumasawa! The third purple trail should have traced across Shannon's throat. But Shannon wasn't there. Because Genji, who had been behind her, had wrapped his own arm around Shannon's neck and pulled her back. This all happened in an instant. In the instant Gora tried to think fast and attempt to understand the scene, the frozen moment in time shattered. Blood spewed forcefully from Nanjo and Kumasawa's necks, which had been torn open. Still mid-jump, Kanon wall-kicked off a picture frame that had been hanging from the wall behind him, springing forward just like a cat, and aiming for Shannon's throat again. But Kanon's target once again disappeared from in front of him, because Genji had pulled Shannon again, and the two of them had fallen to the ground, keeping flat to the floor.
いい反射神経だ。この老いぼれ家具が。
This is too much. There's too much going on over here. Genji, Shannon.
ゴーダ
Kota wasn't an idiot either. Even if he couldn't fully understand what was going on, he at least realized that if this Kanon wasn't seized, his own life would also be in peril. He sprung at Kanon with his huge body, pushing him against the wall with his weight and physical strength. Oh god! God, Goda, no! The tips of the fingers on Kanon's right hand began to trace out another purple trail. When he raised that blade hand up, aiming to strike at Goda's back, there was a loud thunk. Because Kanon's raised blade hand had been pinned to the wall. What? He couldn't tear his palm away from the wall. Sticking out from it was the knife Genji had thrown. Under normal circumstances, it should have been surprising to see someone as old as Genji handle a knife so skillfully. But in this abnormal space, no one paid it much mind.
Genji-sama, これを
Of course. Kanon has magic powers that obviously Shannon and Genji should have as well. Like, they are the only ones who can go against this Kanon. Like, I don't know what the fuck is going on over here, but apparently this Kanon is weak to spiders or something. Maybe Beatrice is afraid of spiders too. So they're trying to attack Shannon with that handkerchief with a web. Genji took the handkerchief with the spider web stuck to it from Shannon. And he approached Kanon, who was pinned to the wall by Goda's massive body and the knife.
やめろ。それは近づけるな。やめろ。やめ。
When Genji pushed the handkerchief up against Kanon's face, there was a sound just like the one you hear when you set meat on a red-hot iron plate. Of course, the smell was the same too, as it was burned and inflamed, festering in filthy red and black, and cried out in his death throes. Kanon's body burst open and scattered. I figured. It was almost as though a balloon filled with gold leaf had popped. The entire servant room was completely buried under a storm of gold leaf. No, a rabble of gold butterflies. Those butterflies began to softly fade into nothingness, as though dissolving into water. No, into the air itself. And afterwards, all that was left was the three of them sitting on their behinds, stained with blood. However, not everyone was just stained with blood. Some of them were lying on the ground, vomiting blood themselves.
Kumasawa, Nanjo sensei.
A slit so sharp that it looked like you could cut your finger if you touched it was open wide, causing large amounts of blood to keep pouring out.
何だったんだ。いや、今のは。
ゴーダ、怪我はないか。
私は大丈夫です。しかし、私たちは何を見たんだ。
It was freaking magic. There, we put you up to date. Like, whatever is going on here, we have to act fast. Like, this is definitely Beatrice's turn now, and the stakes are nowhere to be seen yet, so they might appear soon enough for Kumasawa and Nanjo's bodies. So we have to prepare.
何があったんです。私はあれを確かにこの手でこの壁に押し付けていたのに、その私が何があったのか理解できない。
The bright red blood left from his scuffle with Kanon definitely remained, and yet Kanon was nowhere to be seen, because he had disappeared. He had turned into gold butterflies and scattered. And Goda kept screaming alone that he had no clue about what was going on. Shannon sobbed in front of Nanjo's and Kumasawa's remains, and Genji watched over her, silent as always.
南條先生と熊沢さんが一体どういうことなの？
ああ、シャノン、無事でよかった。君に何かあったら僕は。
庄司様。
God damn it. Things are turning up ugly real fast yet again. Like, we have less than 12 hours left at this point. And 10 people have died thus far.
ジョージ君、少し静かにして。あなたたちの目の前で殺人が行われたんでしょ。犯人を見たの？見ないの？
それが何と説明すればいいのか。源氏さん。
私たちに見たものをうまく説明できません。
確かにそれは私たちの目の前で起こりました。私の目の前にいた。だけれどあれは何だったんだ。私にもわからないんです。
何を言ってるの？
This is not good at all. What I saw was magic being involved yet again. Like, there is no room for doubt. This is definitely another win for Beatrice. And now more drama is going to be spurred because Rosa is going to think that the servants, or more specifically Kanon, killed Kumasawa and Nanjo. Okay, there is no room for doubt about that. There's going to be some conflict going on over here.
あなたが出会ったのは昨夜から所在不明の魔女ベアトリーチェか、行方不明になっているカノン君かのどちらかしかありえない。男か女か、それだけでも答えられるでしょう。
ローザおばさん、少し落ち着けって。
At this point, there are two things that we should focus on. One is to try and solve the murder of the first Twilight. I think that is my priority. It still was not proven that it was Beatrice's doing. It could have been done by human hands too. And, well, another option would be to solve the epitaph, but I doubt that this is the point where we're in the condition to even think clearly about that. Which means that we have to solve the first Twilight, but how? The only suspect that I have in mind is Rosa, and I have little evidence for that.
目の前で2人やられりゃ誰だって混乱だってする。ゴダさん、元気さん、焦らなくていいぜ。何があったのか順を追って話してくれ。
それが何を私は言えばいいのか。
Dr. Nanjo and Kumasawa had been killed. We understood that much. And it seemed that it had occurred in front of their eyes. Even so, they spoke awkwardly. They admitted that they had definitely seen the crime with their own two eyes. But when asked to explain what they had seen, their mouths went suddenly shut. I mean, how would you frickin' explain something like this in front of people that have never seen magic in their entire lives? Like magic like that. That this is suddenly turning into a shonen anime or something? I don't know. I could understand why Auntie Rosa was irritated and losing her patience.
Shannon.
Like, what example of an anime can we even offer to these people that existed before 1986? Like, what anime came before that was of this caliber?
君は見たのかい？南條先生が襲われるところ。
はい。
僕に教えて。分かることだけでもいい。一体何があったの？
勝手口に来たんです。
そうです。勝手口に誰かがやってきたんです。そして誰だろうと私は扉を開けました。
勝手口に誰か？それは誰？
最後まで言わせてやれ。それから
そいつは血まみれで大怪我をしていました。私たちは使用人室に運び すぐに南條先生が手当てをしました。とても深い傷でした。
だからそれは誰のことなの？
わからないんです。確かに最初はそうだと思っていました。いや、今でもそうだと思ってるんです。でもあれは一体わからない。わからない。
In a manner that didn't match his large body, Goda held his head and scratched at it. I didn't have a clue whether he was confused because he couldn't remember, or whether he was confused because he had seen something terrifying and couldn't accept it. And Shana looked the same way. If she let her guard down, what she had seen just a short while ago would quickly melt away like a daydream, and she wouldn't even be able to remember what she saw. And that's what she looked like. Only Genji looked composed as usual, so the questions were naturally directed at Genji. But even Genji had to take quite some time to gather his thoughts before he opened his mouth.
Genji-san, あなたは見たんでしょう。勝手口に来たのは誰？
はじめ、私たちはその人物がカノンであると信じました。
ほら、やっぱり生きていたでしょ。私の推理は正しかった。
はじめはってことは、後にその認識は変わるってこと？
はい。その後に起こったことは口では説明できません。南條先生と熊沢を殺し、そして姿を消しました。その時、彼は間違いなくカノンではありませんでした。
そうなんです。源氏さんの言う通りなんですよ。口ではとても説明できない。
君も同じ意見なのかい？
はい、私も同じことしか申し上げられません。
We interpreted what they were saying favorably. It meant that Auntie Rosa's conclusion had been correct from the beginning. God damn it. Kanon-kun had appeared from the back door in the kitchen with a serious injury. Then he had been taken to the servant room and cared for. Then something terrifying had happened. Since these people couldn't imagine that Kanon-kun could have pulled that off, they had started to suspect whether that really had been Kanon-kun. Is that how things are? In other words, in this band, Kanon-kun had appeared. No matter how confused they were, no matter how they muddled their words, that's what it meant in the end. So, had Kanon-kun indeed used some trick to escape their room while it was locked? No, that doesn't matter anymore. The real problem is that Dr. Nanjo and Kumasawa-san were killed. Auntie Rosa had claimed that Kanon-kun was behind this from the very beginning. No matter how confused they became and no matter how much they tried to deny that, they were halfway saying that it was the truth. But even so, for some reason, I felt like their awkwardness couldn't be explained just by confusion. What had they seen? Like they said, had they really seen something unexplainable with words? Auntie Rosa, having decided that she wouldn't be able to get any more out of them, concluded her questioning, and said that she wanted to check the two bodies. I was also interested in that, even if these people didn't have a clue what was going on in their confusion. If those of us who hadn't been at the scene calmly looked at the bodies, we might find something. But it was a little surprising that Auntie Rosa was also concerned about the bodies, just like I was. Even at this point, I still wanted to expose the culprit and the truth myself, if I could find any clues. But Auntie Rosa should have been different. Hadn't Auntie Rosa's plan given a higher priority to staying safe than to finding the culprit? I don't really see why Auntie Rosa wanted to check the bodies so badly that she would deliberately leave our fort in the parlor.
みんなで一緒に使用人室に行きます。全員一緒に行動すれば安全よ。マリア、落書き遊びはおしまいになさい。
おお、落書きじゃない。 ベアトリーチェの問題を解いているの。
Beatrice's problem?
ベアトリーチェの問題？何のことだよ。俺にも教えてくれよ。
ローザおばさん、マリアちゃんもその
It seemed that George Aniki had some resistance to bringing Maria to the bloody crime scene. But taking into consideration the fact that Maria would be left alone here, it would surely be much safer if we took Maria with us. In the end, it was just Aniki's irresponsible humanism. We decided that all of us, including Maria, would go to the servant room. The bed in the servant room was stained with bright red blood. No, not just the bed. The whole room was covered with a gruesome paint from countless bloodstains. That dreadful scene alone was enough to give us an idea of the repulsive sight they had been trying to describe.
おお、マリアも見る。
マリアちゃんは僕と一緒にここで待ってようね。
George was standing by the entrance, covering Maria's eyes, with his back to the room. He probably didn't want to dirty an innocent girl's retinas with a repulsive red in this room. And that was surely the correct decision. I was acting tough right now, so I didn't mind. But I will probably remember this room and start to vomit whenever I saw red paint scattered around. For the rest of my life. My retinas already had this room burned in me. In other words, it was too late for me.
どこへ？
Oh god. Are you kidding me? Right after they entered the servant room, Goda-san and Shannon-chan appeared flustered. We shook, wondering what horrible new situation had arisen to fluster them for a second time.
どうしたの？何事？
Montitosa also shuddered, raising her gun high, and searched for whatever it was that had them shaken. But she couldn't find it, which wasn't surprising. They were shaken because they couldn't find it.
なんだなんだ。どうしたってんだ一体。
二人の言いたいがありません。
どういうことなの？
そんなはずないんです。確かにお二人はここに。
おいおいおい。なんだよ。死体がどこかへ歩いてったってのか。そんなわけないだろ。だってこの使用人室は施錠されてたんだろ。それを今郷田さんが開けて入ったわけじゃないか。
Jeez.
ってことはなんだ？ジェシカの部屋と同じってことかよ。また密室の中から消えたってのかよ。
Alright. I gotta stay calm. Stay calm. Beatrice is probably gonna do the same thing with Kanon. Use Nanjo and Kumasawa to fuck with us. Not just the sword dances, but the whole closed room mystery again. God damn it, I'm getting sick of locked room mysteries at this point.
そんなバカな。
私にも何のことやらさっぱり。私たちはこの部屋を出るとき、確かに鍵をかけて。私こそ何が何やらもうわからないのです。
There was a timid and pitiful smile on Koda's-san's face that he definitely wouldn't have let show normally. Shannon was the same.
二人の死体が消えた。しかも鍵をかけたのに消えた。仮にカノン君が犯人だとしても、カノン君はマスターキーをもう持ってないはず。
違います。カノン君は犯人じゃありません。
シャノン。僕はシャノンを信じるよ。カノン君は犯人なんかじゃない。きっとこれは彼によく似た何者かの仕業なんだ。
いえ、カノン君はマスターキーを手に入れられたわよ。だって彼のマスターキーはジェシカちゃんの遺体のポケットから見つかった。そしてその鍵は誰が手に入れた？
そうだ、南條先生が。
That's right. Back then, it definitely had been Dr. Nanjo who searched through Jessica's clothes and found the master key. So, if someone had the opportunity to search Dr. Nanjo's corpse, it would have been easy for them to take the master key back. Until also searched under the bed and in the locker. By now, I also understood what that meant. If you assumed that there had been two culprits, could it be easily explained? The first person was Kanon-kun, or maybe an imposter that looked like him. He had finished off Dr. Nanjo and ran off somewhere. The second person was probably the 19th person, Beatrice, whose location was unknown. She had hidden under the bed in the servant room beforehand. And with Dr. Nanjo's body still enshrined here, she had waited for Genji-san and the rest to leave. And after that, she had crawled out, taken the master key back from Dr. Nanjo's pocket, and carried the two bodies away for some reason. If she had then locked the door with the master key, this locked room would be created.
ジェシカの部屋の推理を前提になかなか素早く組み立ててきたものよ。その方法なら魔法でなくても密室は作り出せよう。まずは及第点というところか。しかし実に面白いが、お前の言う方法で犯人がマスターキーを取り返したなら、その犯人はマスターキーをジェシカの遺体から南條が回収したことを知っていたことになる。
That's true.
言われなくても分かってるぜ。あの時、あの場にいた人物以外知り得ない情報だって言いてんだろ。
So, if we are to think of that, people are gonna say that it's not canon at this point.
この第三の密室があっさり破られちまったもんで、そういう手で俺に闇を言うしかねえんだろ。同じネタの繰り返しは芸がないぜ。
Even though I was acting tough, that move of the witches hurt bad. I could feel cracks forming in the thing I most wanted to deny. Indeed. She's really trying her damnedest to prove that everything is magic with these closed room murders. She's trying to close in on me from two directions. On the one hand, there's the frontal attack, where she tries to force me to believe in witches, using locker room tricks that only a witch could do. And on the other hand, there's the rear attack, where she tries to lure me into thinking it would be better if there was a witch, by straightening my suspicions of those close to me. In the first locker room, the chapel, she had used the frontal attack, but it hadn't worked on me. And that's undoubtedly why, with the second locker room, and now the third, she started to change the direction of her attack. However, the fact that she was changing the direction of her attack also proved that my distance was working a little. And she had surely given up on the frontal attack because she couldn't just win directly with it. I tried to force myself to accept my own position by thinking that. But it seemed that the witch had seen through these thoughts of mine long ago.
成功法は書かぬ。絡めては成功法と同時に進めてこそ意味がある。絡めてのみに出するは手段が目的となった時に起こる愚策に過ぎぬぞ。
そうですかい。じゃあお得意の赤で何者かが使用人室に隠れていたを復唱してもらおうじゃないか。
その必要はない。お前の推理の前提は今から崩れる。
拒否かよ。やっぱり誰かが隠れていたんだな。
ローザが今からお前の前提を崩す。まあ耳を傾けてみよう。
貴 信じてください、ローザ様。確かにここに2人の遺体を安置したんです。この床の真っ赤な血は彼らのものなのです。
They also began to search through various objects around the room, her back to Goda-san as he cried out in supplication.